quick look at the agenda. So we'll go over, like I said, all this is in the what's new, but we'll kind of take a little bit deeper of a look into each topic. So we'll look at the early contact initiative, which Jacob will talk about, regular season, preseason rankings, line and scoring, warm-up protocol changes, 19U eligibility, registration for weekends, fair play class clarifications, convention center events, which is super cool that we're really pumped about, Ontario Championships 2023, and some just general administrative reminders. So just from the OVA side of things, who's on the call tonight, we have Alicia Liddams, Director of Volleyball Operations. Carrie Campbell, unfortunately, has COVID, I think for the second time. So she unfortunately will not be joining us tonight. And myself, Mark Wiersma, Indoor Competitions Lead, and Jacob Barker. Some of you may have not, well, I guess it's already been probably 4 or 5 months now. You're like a veteran here now. But Jacob will be looking after the younger age group, so 4v4 to the 15U boys and girls. So Jacob, you can take it away.
Awesome.
Oh, sorry,
Thank you,
Jacob.
Mark.
One thing I forgot to mention, just in terms of the questions. So we ask that everyone stays on mute throughout the presentation and just ask your question in the chat, and then we'll keep track of those and then ask them throughout the presentation. And we'll also be creating a general Q&A that we'll be posting with this presentation that will be on our website. So people will be able to review it on your own time, and then for the ones that aren't on the presentation with us tonight. And I do apologize in advance. We did create this presentation with that in mind, which means it's more of a presentation deck style, so a lot more wordy than a typical presentation, but it is very handy for those who are reviewing the presentation, whether it be tomorrow or in a couple of weeks, when you have all the information on the slides for you. So yeah, now you can go, Jacob. Sorry about that.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. Hi, everyone. It's nice to somewhat meet you in this setting. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jacob Barker. I'm the new Indoor Programs Coordinator for the OVA. I'm really looking forward to starting or getting a full season of this. And obviously I started in April, so right as we were concluding this last season. So hopefully we can get a full season in here, as Mark said. So I'm just going to update all of you on some changes to our ECI initiative. So that is our 4v4 all the way to 50 or to TLS. I'll go into that a little bit later when we get to that age group, but I'll start off with our 4v4. So as you can see, the purpose of our 4v4 age group is to develop our athletes and give them a great introduction to the sport of volleyball. So I'm also seeing, okay, is my internet holding up okay? It's good? All right. Worst case, just ask me to repeat myself, or Mark can reiterate it because he has a little bit better Wi-Fi. But it's 4v4 is the best introduction to volleyball that we have. So it allows for a lot more contacts, a lot more rallies, and athletes to have just a ton of fun playing the sport for the first time. So with that in mind, all of our events are developmentally focused. So we'll have a round robin competition, no medals, no points, no final standings. The purpose is just to get as much participation as possible and have the athletes really enjoying the sport of volleyball. And they'll get 4 regular season events between November and March. A nice 2-day Ontario Championships. It's similar format to last year. We may tweak it just depending on the amount of teams that we have, but a 2-day Ontario Championship for sure. We are still waiting on news from Mikasa regarding the balls right now. The MVA Lite is no longer in production, and it is our recommended ball. So we aren't fully sure what is going to happen with that, but we will keep you posted and send out an announcement as soon as we do have confirmation from Mikasa. So I believe that is it for 4v4. It's staying relatively standard to last year.
Jacob, we have one quick question regarding 4v4, if you want to answer that, you and Mark. Are you considering 2 pools of 4 for round robin, so facilities with 2 courts can be used, and not always 3 courts and 9 teams?
Yeah, it's definitely something we can consider. It's going to come down a lot to facility availability. So what we have available on those weekends, if it's possible, we would like them by all means, but it'll completely depend on what we do have available at that time. I don't know if you want to add to that, Mark, because you've been booking facilities for a while, but yeah.
That is certainly a nice thing about 4-on-4 in that we can be very flexible with that round robin style. Obviously, it still is ideal to do the 3-court because we have a pretty decent schedule. It's a 10-team schedule, just a round robin. It's just a nice, efficient schedule. But of course, if we're looking for venues, and of course this year, we really we hope we can be back to the 2019-2020 hosting style and venue availability, but really we don't truly know if that's going to be quite like that. So yeah, we are very, very flexible on that end.
Awesome. Okay, I think we're good for 4v4. All right, 6v6. So very similar again to what we're trying to do with 4v4 in terms of our development focused age group. All right, so this is an introduction. We've moved past 4v4, we're moving into our 6v6 rally ball. Same idea with 4 regular season events between November and March. The way that it will work this year is we're going to start off with Provincial Cup. It's called a Kickstart event. Development focus, same idea as 4v4. So it's going to be round robin. We're hoping to get 5 to 6 matches available. The results will not count towards your Ontario Championships ranking, but we will be using sets ratio from the round robin to help even out our Challenge Cup events and hopefully make somewhat accurate rankings that maybe help those tournaments a little bit to make them a little bit more balanced. From there on, we will be using the self-declare method for each of the 3 tournaments that are going on. So Challenge Cup, McGregor Cup, and Bogarski Cup. We found that the self-declare worked out really, really well for these younger age groups. It definitely is not perfect, but for a younger age group, we believe that allowing coaches the opportunity to put themselves into a division that they feel is developmentally appropriate for their team is the best course of action. So with this format, you will still be getting a set number of points depending on which division you declare to. So if you're in championship, the tier 1, we do have the championship point structure that will be awarded. This will have a full, ideally 9-on-3 tournament rankings with it. And then Trillium would be the exact same idea, just with Trillium points awarded. So you're still getting points awarded to your top 2 average for Ontario Championships, but you're able to move within the divisions or to stay in a division, whatever you feel is best for your team. So you don't have to worry about the promotion, relegation, anything like that. So that is the purpose of doing the self-declare for all of our events. And then, as I said, Ontario Championships. So we'll take your top 2 average from your Challenge, McGregor, and Bogarski Cups. And we will make our standard 3-day tournament for the 6v6 girls. Get there. Okay, there we go. 6v6 boys, similar, a little bit different because we don't have the same volume of teams, but for our Kickstart event, it'll be the exact same deal. We're trying to get 5-6 matches for our teams, round robin style, no playoffs, team placings, medals, anything like that. And the team set ratio will be used to help even out those Challenge Cup events. Same idea to hopefully make accurate results or accurate rankings for that next tournament. So from there on, we will be doing a little bit more of our standard format where the top performing teams in Challenge Cup will be placed into a premier division for McGregor Cup and so on. The only major change to note in the 6v6 boys from previous years and from different age groups is that there is no relegation from the premier division. The reason for that being is we don't want coaches and athletes being really worried about that 5th, 7th place match and having to go down if they believe that they're a premier level team. So we are eliminating the relegation part of that. So we will still have the top championship teams be promoted into premier. It would just mean we either do one larger premier tournament or either or 2 premier tournaments, depending on the number of teams that are there that make it. So that will be that is our 6v6 boys division. Then same deal, top 2 average from those 3 tournaments will be used for your 3-day Ontario Championships. All right, the TLS girls. So as you can see right there, traditional non-specialized is no longer what we call it. It is traditional limited specialized. So this is something that our Indoor Volleyball Development Committee has brought up. It's that in this division, it actually does have some specialization, so it doesn't make sense to call it non-specialized. So traditional limited specialized is now what we're changing to. I'm sorry if that messes with everyone's acronyms and such. After 1 year, it messes with ours a lot too. We've had to do a lot of website changes just to get that one acronym switched over, but it's all good. So it is now TLS. So a couple of changes to note. This is a big one. So our age eligibility is now 18 months for both genders. And both athlete in TLS, and you are within a 24-month window, so a January birthday. To June, we will have to review it to make sure that it is in the best interest of that athlete to be at the TLS level. Sorry, did I cut out there? I got a notification that my internet was laggy. Sorry,
you cut out, but now you're good. So we'll see. We'll see.
Okay.
How it goes.
Did we miss anything? Like, did I miss anything there?
A little bit
Okay.
cut out, but the people can just read the
Okay.
paragraph. You just missed a couple words.
Okay. As long as you know that the application will be sent to myself, and then we'll review it to make sure that it's in the best interest of the athlete, then that is good. Obviously, we have this rule to allow athletes to develop at the appropriate skill level for themselves. So if it means that they are better suited for a TLS program than 15U, then that's great. This rule is not used to stack TLS teams with overagers. So that is why we have the application process for the athletes that are born January to July, because we want to make sure that that is not happening. Another big note, so any athlete that does not have a birth year that falls within Volleyball Canada's age eligibility requirements, which is 16 months, will not be granted an exemption to participate in national competitions for 2023. So it's just something to note. You'll still be able to participate in everything that the OVA has to offer, but not every province and territory that has this rule across Canada. So it is important that Volleyball Canada, from their perspective, keeps things consistent. So they still have their 16-month eligibility policy. And that's for this age group here, so 14 nationals. We'll touch on that a little bit later as well. But another new change that we have, so servers will be limited to 5 consecutive points by each player while in the serving rotation. So again, the purpose of this is so we don't have one server go back to the line, serve 15 straight balls. Not everyone gets to play in every position. It's not really fun for anyone. We're adopting this rule. So you get 5 serves. Once the 5th serve is completed and the serving team still has possession, we'll just do just a rotation, and the next server will start for that team. So that is very simple. If the player does serve more, so if the referee doesn't catch it, or the player just tries to go for a 6th serve, that was the exact same as a service error, essentially, and the team will lose the point, and then it'll go to the other team. So the TLS division will have the full regular season events like the other ones from November to March.
Quick question, Jacob, in terms of teams in ACI, the question was, are teams allowed to play up? For example, could a 6v6 rally girls team play up in the TLS?
Yep. Yeah, they can still play up, assuming that it works with our schedule, but I believe it does. The only way it wouldn't is if we have to rejig our schedule for any sort of COVID-related purpose or something like that. But yeah, that's no problem at all.
And then we
just not, sorry, I was going to say just not for Ontario Championships because it's only a 6-day event. So you would not have a long enough break to do that.
Exactly. Okay, just some questions coming in regarding proper score sheets and what we be using for the 5s cap. So Mark, Jacob, any comments on score sheets?
Mark, do you want to take that one?
That's a great question. I actually haven't broke that out on the score sheet myself, so I don't know how offhand.
Okay, so you'll follow
plan is still
yeah.
If we can follow up with that one.
Perfect.
I'll include that in the Q&A that we post after.
Sounds good.
All right, I'll keep going here. So TLS girls, the structure that we have. So same idea, we're going with that kickstart event. It's a little bit different as points will still be awarded and do count towards your seed for Challenge Cup and also for Ontario Championships. With that being said, for the first two events here, we do have a self-declare option. Again, it is to allow for coaches and athletes coaches to place their team into the division that they feel is developmentally appropriate for them to start the season. Right, so we still need to take points at these tournaments just to help with our data and to make sure that the tournaments going forward are as competitively balanced as possible, because we know that blowouts are not fun for either team and they do not help any athlete develop. So the earlier we can collect data on teams, the better the competition will be for everyone. So that's why it's still important for us to do it from event 1 here. That being said, we are still allowing the self-declare between the two divisions for those first two tournaments to allow teams an opportunity to still feel it out. If they have a not so great first tournament, they still feel like they belong in tier 1, they can still stay there, try again there. But that is what we're looking at for those. Those first two tournaments are also non-specialized, so it is the 6-6 system. For more resources, we do have our ECI page on our website, so I recommend checking that out. We're in the process of updating with some fresh videos as well to explain that, but lots of information coming up in the next couple of months regarding ECI and some resources to help you out and run a great program. From there on, the last two tournaments are not self-declare. We have enough data to split our teams appropriately there. So we do have Trillium Championship and Select divisions for tournaments 2 and 3. Still build out those tiers. This is where we would move into our limited specialization. So you do have an option of 3 sort of systems. Again, more resources are available if you need them, but we do have the 4-2, the 6-2, and the 6-3 are permitted for those. And then obviously our last one, we do have an opportunity to break out again. The big thing is we do not have any relegation, very similar to our other divisions in that mind, where you are not getting relegated from your tournament. We would just bump more teams up to make a larger division with that. And the addition of Premier right at the end should allow for very competitively balanced competition. Then there's Ontario Championships again with the same idea, the 3-day and top 2 average. And then finally, we have our TLS boys. First event, round robin, points again still awarded, very similar to TLS girls and that guys. The only main difference between the boys here is because we have a much fewer amount of teams. That's the right way to say it, I think. We don't have as much of a breakout there, so we are just building into championship and premier as we go on. But the first 2 tournaments still 6-6 only, and then the last 2 you're allowed limited specialization. And then our then Ontario Championships will be built out with top 2 average.
Thanks, Jacob. Alicia, any questions for Jacob before we move away from the ECI?
There's just a question if we could share the triple ball score sheet. So yes, we can send that out and also post it under the hosting section of the website. So it's always living there for people to see. We also actually do have a page on the website, the big black hole of the OVA website, with so much information of how to score, do the score sheet. So we can actually make sure that there's a presentation regarding filling out the triple ball score sheet as well on that section. So stay tuned, it will all get updated. Thanks, good question, Calvin.
Thanks for that. Okay, moving on. So in terms of seeding for next regular season, we'll be back to our normal kind of ways of doing this, and that will be taking a look at the previous year's Ontario Championships and how a team finished there. So we will be just doing this for TLS to 18U, and the 4v4 and 6v6 will just be a random seed within that first event. Now, one thing I do want to know, because it sometimes surprises some teams here and there, but especially this past year where we didn't have that many teams playing up, just with the capacity concerns, very few teams were able to play up, which unfortunately means very few underage teams have a preseason rank going into this year for that age group that they would want to play up in, which means we'll be looking at their of age percentage and kind of slotting teams into certain divisions based on that percentage. And that happens more at the older age groups, where we start off more with more divisions built off right off the bat. So for example, if let's say we have 45 teams in that top division and you're ranked 45th, there's almost 100% chance you won't be starting off that division, because we'll need to take into account the initial placements for underage teams and for just new teams or new clubs. So just keep that in mind, that if you are pretty close to that kind of split line, there's a good chance that you'll be bumped down for that first tournament, just to help with the competitive balance. So warm-up modifications, any ball from the receiving side of the court entering to the attacking side must be entered from the outside of the court. So that just means coaches are no longer permitted inside the 3-meter line. So playing on an assigned weekend, we started doing this last year mainly because of the lack of venues. This year, obviously, we do have access to more venues, but some of the venues are having rules around booking. So for example, they'll only book you the Saturday and Sunday rather than only the Saturday. So especially with this first year back in COVID, we want to still take advantage of booking those venues and didn't want to just completely give them up. So there are some venues where we just unfortunately had to do the Saturday and Sunday, even if technically we don't have a Sunday highlighted as a tournament day. So if you look at the competition calendar, we put a little asterisk next to those Saturdays, that there is a potential for your team to have a Sunday tournament. And I will say that on those weekends, it's still the vast majority will be on Saturday, but there will be just a handful that will be placed on the Sunday. So typically teams would know about 3 to 4 weeks in advance, once the registration deadline is passed and once we have the results from their previous event, so we can do the promotion relegation. And just a fair play clarification. So some of you may have noticed last year we kind of had this pilot concept for teams with larger rosters. So if they had 13 or 14 players, we allowed for teams to basically do like a rotational, kind of like adult rec league, where you just keep going through so everyone can play. Or if you want to do it with 7 or 8 players, but we're going to change that to just allowing that for the 4v4 RALLYBALL age group. And then the older age groups that this can happen in, you'll only be able to play 6 players in the first set, the next 6 players in the second set. So then if that means you still have 2 more players, for example, that haven't played yet, if there's a third set, then great, you can play them there. Or if it's just 2 straight sets, then they can play in that second match of the day as a way to get them involved. 19U eligibility. So last year we started this, I guess, yeah, it was our first year that we had this new concept. And it seemed to go over really well, so we kept it in line for this year. We just tweaked a couple things and clarified a few things around the 19U eligibility, specifically around post-secondary school athletes and red shirts and that type of thing. So in short, last year we started allowing an unlimited number of 19U athletes on 18U teams. And this is really came from COVID and how many athletes are staying around for a 5th year, or they just want to continue developing their volleyball skills, since it's kind of been hit and miss here these last couple of years. So in short, technically, an 18U team could be filled with 12 19U athletes, as long as none of them are on a roster at any point in the season on a post-secondary team. I think I covered. Oh, and the one key thing to note here is that only 2 19U athletes, which is the rule that we had previously for the past many years, are only permitted on an 18U roster for Volleyball Canada's national championship. So just really keep that in mind when you're starting the season and what the goal of your team is, and that'll help you make your decision as to whether or not additional 19U athletes will make sense for your team. 15 and 16U line-in scoring pilot. So in short, we're massively short referees, and I'm sure most of you know this is not just a volleyball problem. This is a sport-wide, every sport problem that they're facing. And when I think it was at the officials committee meeting, one of the officials came up with this concept, and because this is currently done in the United States, and we thought, hey, this might be a great way to hey, maybe attract a couple of youth to want to go down the official path as well, and just kind of dip their feet into the official side of volleyball as well. So in the past, it has been done for the whole, like every match of the tournament, playoffs, round robin, all age groups. But since it hasn't been done in a few years now, we just want to start off with just a couple age groups and only round robin. That way teams can still have a break in between playoffs and round robin, and it'll just be officiating 2 other games for teams. So in short, it'll be indicated on the schedule as to which team will be assigned to line and score when they're off. So it'll be very clearly outlined in the schedule. And important to note, sometimes hosts do provide their own lines and scores as an additional fundraiser for hosting a tournament. So in that case, there would be no work assignments for that tournament, because we would still want the host to have that opportunity to have that additional fundraiser for their crew doing the lines and scorekeeping. And if that's the case, we'll be sure to mention that on the schedule so teams know ahead of time that they will not be assigned to line and score. And if a team misses or refuses to fulfill their assignment, they will be fined and not permitted to play in the next event. So very important to keep that in mind there. And as I mentioned, lunch breaks will be scheduled. I'm sure you've noticed last year we took those out. Kind of combination of venue timing and also not wanting everyone to congregate at the same time. But we will be adding those back in again this year. But just as a general note, it's going to be a very, I guess, the new norm in that potlucks are not going to be allowed at a large number of venues. In the past, as you know, almost every venue would allow it and just a handful wouldn't. But now we're starting to see it's definitely probably going to be a way of the past the potlucks and more of the bring your own bag lunch type of scenario. Convention center events. This is something we are very, very excited about. We've been talking about it for a few years of how can we introduce this? How can we, I don't know, get this into the regular season concept instead of just only having the venues, like the large venues at the Ontario Championships. And last year was we kind of got forced into it with them being the only venues available last minute that we could book. And that's how we kind of, started it for this year and integrating it into the regular season. So we're very fortunate with the EY Center, and so the EY Center in Ottawa and the Niagara Falls Convention Center in both host cities were especially Ottawa, was very, very generous in figuring out how we could make this work. So we're excited to announce that they are officially happening. So the EY Center event in Ottawa is scheduled for November 11th to 13th weekend. So it's a bit of a combination of events here, because as I mentioned, the pilot concept, we wanted to also figure out a way to make it more of a meaningful event. As you probably know from last year, all of our convention center events were just a one-day event for all teams. You'd come in, play your regular 9-on-3 tournament, and you'd be gone. But we really wanted to try and come up with some sort of pilot and to see how this goes. And again, just with a few age groups, one weekend, and we'll look at it after the event and see if we can continue moving forward. So on the Friday, November 11th, this will still be your traditional 9-on-3 events. So on our competition schedule, we have 18U girls, 16U girls, 16U boys, and 15U boys currently scheduled for this weekend. So those 8 single-day events would be ideally the most. It'll definitely group some GTA teams, probably little West GTA teams up until Ottawa. We'll try and take Jarfie into account as much as possible when assigning those. And then the November 12th to 13th, the 2-day pilot program events, those are geared towards the top teams of each division. So 18U girls and the 16U girls will be the exact same scheduled concept of top 24 teams. It'll be a single serpentine round robin, followed by a bracket on day 2. But the bracket, so we'll have, for example, the 24 teams, we'll have one bracket as set up as premier, and then we'll have 2 brackets set up as select. So based on your first day results or your round robin results, that will determine how you or which bracket you'll finish on day 2. And that similar concept will be on the boys side as well, 16U boys and 15U boys. We're just doing a little bit smaller number of teams, just as the boys, they have less teams as a whole. So from a competitive balance standpoint, we don't want to open it up to too many teams, or that competitive balance will start to lessen a little bit. And oh, sorry, I forgot that point there, team splits. So for the first event, the registration deadline is around that 4.5 week time frame out. So as soon as that registration deadline passes, we'll be able to take a look at all the teams, assign them, and then figure out which teams will be going to Ottawa, especially on that single day tournament. For the teams ahead of time, since you know now already, you'll be guaranteed 18U girls at top 24 teams. If you're ranked 4th, for example, at 18U girls, you know, basically, yeah, 100% you'll be assigned to Ottawa on November 12th to 13th. So it's more those bubble teams if you're ranked 23, 24, 25 kind of thing. Then you'll have to wait and see until the splits come out. Niagara Falls Convention Center, so that one's taking place at the end of February. So this is a little bit more of a traditional style event, just due to the number of courts. Since there's only 12 courts, we didn't have as much flexibility to do what we're doing at the EY Center, for example. So at the Niagara Falls Convention Center, we'll be having the 18U boys and girls Grand Prix qualifier 2-day events. So those will be taking place on the Saturday and Sunday. Along with those, on the Friday, we'll have 4 single-day events. So 18U girls, 18U boys, and TLS girls are currently scheduled for that weekend. Similar idea to EY Center on that Friday. We'll take geography into consideration there. So I'm guessing just offhand right now, there'll probably be like 2 TLS girls events, maybe 1 18U girls and 1 18U boys on that Friday. Don't quote me on that, but it'll be something like that, because we'll be obviously taking geography into account, especially with it being on a Friday. And then the Saturday, we'll be having 2 single-day events, because the 2 Grand Prix qualifiers will be taking up 6 of the 12 courts, which leaves 6 additional courts. So that will allow us to have 2 9-on-3 events there. And then the same thing on the Sunday, we'll have 2 additional events, 2 9-on-3 tournaments. Ontario Championships. It's weird saying back at Anacare when it never officially happened, but it felt like it sort of happened with all the planning that went into it that got canceled last second. But we are very excited to be back for 2023 to officially run it once and for all. So yeah, it'll be very, very unique being all under one roof, 56 courts across all halls. So as Jacob already mentioned, the one key difference actually for the first time ever for an Ontario Championship, because we've never officially done this, it's only 6 days. So it's, you go in, go out, it's pretty quick. So just be 2 events. You'll either be on April 20th to 22nd, or the event 2 will be April 23rd to 25th. Now with that is, with those being 6 days in a row, as Jacob mentioned, that means no teams can play up, because that always be 6 days in a row, too much competition. So all teams can only play in 1 Ontario Championships. Now, having said that, if you, like, for example, some teams do play upwards of 4 tournaments, like at the playing up age group throughout the year, you're essentially allowed 1 Ontario Championship. So if you feel that Ontario Championship should be your team playing up age group, then by all means, you can certainly do that. It's up to you, but you just can do 1 Ontario Championships. We will be waiting a little bit longer than normal for posting our age divisions and splits for the Ontario Championships, mainly due to our uncertainty with what kind of numbers we're going to see. In a typical season in the summer right about now, we do our kind of predictions of what we're going to see for each age group, and we're fairly close most of the time. But these last couple of years have seen some pretty wonky numbers in different age groups, way lower, way higher. So really, we have no idea what we're going to see this year. So we need to wait until we see that first tournament registration numbers to really help us give an accurate split breakdown for Ontario Championships.
Yeah, I was going to add to that, Mark. In terms of the pandemic and the house league programs that were slashed over the last 2 years, the younger age divisions on indoor and beach from like the 11 to the 13, you have drastically dropped. Now that clubs are doing more of the house league programs and building that bottom base of the pyramid up, we're expecting those numbers to jump up higher again. So that's kind of also going into waiting to see the pieces of the puzzle and how everything can fit together at Ontario Championships. Like Mark said, good thing it's only a 6-day event, so you're not waiting to see if you're playing the first weekend of April or the last weekend. It's just going to be that 6-day spread. So by November 21st, registration will open, and hopefully, fingers crossed, everything's good to go this year.
Exactly. Hotel booking information and deadlines will be provided late September, roughly late September timeframe to everyone, and that will be posted on our website. And all event information will be posted online on our Ontario Championships page. So not too much there yet, but we'll definitely be amping that up in the near future with all the information that you guys need. This is just a note about Volleyball Canada's community coach training. It's not like it's absolutely mandatory, but it's a great course and a great training opportunity. So we thought we'd throw it up here in case anyone's interested in this. So just to highlight the key points here, Volleyball Canada offers 2 different training opportunities for those working with kids in the fundamentals 6 to 8 and learn to train 9 to 12 stages, community coach workshop, and elementary volleyball e-learning. The community coach workshop is designed for coaches working in the club environment and is a 3-hour national coaching certification program. So if anyone's interested in that, you can click that link and they'll bring you to all the information you need surrounding that. And a few administration reminders. So starting September 1st, all athletes, coaches, and club personnel must register in the OVA membership system prior to participating in any OVA or club activity, including tryouts. Very important, including tryouts piece as well. But please note that aspect is free. So you can just register as a tryout player role, which allows you then to sign off on the waivers and Rowan's Law documents free of charge. So that'll allow everyone trying out to be in the MRS system. And then also phase 2 of the government's implementation of Rowan's Law came into effect in January of earlier this year. So just as a reminder, clubs must ensure each team event has someone present who can act in the capacity of the designate. And the designate persons must review the ministry's concussion awareness resource in the previous 12 months, complete the Making Headway course offered through NCCP. Others are obligated to communicate to the designate any information if they suspect concussion. Designate is obligated to remove the athlete if concussion is suspected. Follow removal from sport protocol. Follow return to sport protocol. And then if anyone has any questions, feel free to email Joanne about that. Stay tuned. So here are a couple things coming down the pipeline. So the youth competitions manual, we are going through it tooth and combs multiple times right now. We're getting close, but it'll be posted probably in the mid-August timeframe. One key thing to note, as everyone knows, fees have gone up for everything, which also means our expense fees have gone up. So do expect a tournament entry fee increase just due to the cost of business, venues, everything that everyone's aware of these days. Updated early contact initiative manual will be posted in early August. If you're interested in hosting tournaments, please contact myself. Just a note here, so there is a hosting tournaments page on our website. I've just updated all the PDFs and information around that. So if you've never hosted before and you or your team or your club or would be interested in doing that, feel free to take a read at some of those PDFs. They range from what to expect in the day, the whole process of how to put in a bid, and how to get your expenses claimed. So everything's all there for you. And the deadline to submit your bids, I forget offhand, it's about the second week in September. I want to say September 14th rings a bell, somewhere around that time frame to submit your bid. And then look out for emails regarding coach eligibility policy, MRS registration dates, insurance info, respecting sport requirements, club form deadlines, and more. MRS registration. oh yeah, and as a reminder, MRS registration system will be ready for clubs to use starting on September 1st. And that is all. Are there any questions, Alicia, on that?
Sorry, I did have one question. We actually have incorrect information in this presentation regarding the red shirts for the 19U. Red shirts can play. I think we have in here that they cannot.
Oh, yes.
Yes, so that's a typo on that one. Thank you. I think it was Melissa that brought that up. So
oh, yes.
We'll make sure that's updated on the presentation. And,
yes.
And just to clarify on that, because we have had some conversations about what being a red shirt actually means. So you can play, but as soon as you end up on an OUA or an OCAA roster for any match, you are no longer eligible to play and for an OVA team. So that is the way that it is checked for that. So just keep that in mind.
Can I just clarify that? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, that's if they appear on a score sheet.
Sorry, that's what I meant.
Roster. Yes.
Yeah. On the game sheet for a match.
Yeah. Correct.
Yep, and all of those score sheets that are available on the OCAA and OUA website, so you can go see and check stats and see who's listed on those and who was on the game sheet. So it's all there.
Sorry, I have a question too. It's Holly. On the form stack that you go to for the U19, it says that the athlete has to declare that they are not a red shirt player. So will that be fixed as well?
Yes, thank you for clarifying that. We will review that and fix that. Yeah, because yes, that's correct. If you're a red shirt, you can play.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
There's a question regarding insurance certificates. So Jen just said to start sending in all of the applications for the upcoming year to the info at or insurance at that goes to Sherry. And everything should be getting processed is what I've been told. If anything changes, that will get updated, throughout early August. Jacob, is there anything else we missed in here?
Just a question from Richard here. I guess it's a direct message to me, so I can answer otherwise, but I guess it does apply to everyone else. So for smaller clubs that would have some players cross over between two age groups, unfortunately, because of the window that we have for provincials, for Ontario Championships, we still cannot allow an athlete to play all 6 days. That is for athlete safety. And it is just for to ensure that those athletes are going to be in the developing properly, would not get overworked throughout those 6 days. So that is what we're going to have to do that. And it does require, I believe, is it a 5-day break in between events? Is that correct, Mark, Sasha, Alicia?
Technically, I think it might even be as low as 1 day. But yeah, the main thing, like you said, Jake, it was 6 days in a row. We just don't allow for athletes.
All right.
Perfect.
Okay, I have one more. Sorry.
Go ahead.
On the form stack as well. And Mark, I know that I was emailing you back and forth about this, and it's just because it applies to my team quite a bit. So the first point is red shirt. Second point is if you're on the roster as a volleyball player. But then the third one actually says as well, an athlete who has been listed on any roster at any time. So it doesn't specifically say volleyball.
Oh, so, yes, I remember this now.
Yeah.
But yes, so it is only volleyball.
Okay, because they didn't want to sign it because they're worried, right? They're like, I've been on a roster, so okay, all right. Thank you.
Yeah, all good there.
It looks like we're all good, unless I missed something. But
perfect. Then I guess we're ending a little early. Look at that. You have 14 minutes left of your evening, everyone. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. It was a pleasure, and hopefully you enjoy the last few weeks of summer, as it's August already next weekend, last weekend of July, just this past weekend. Enjoy those few last beach events, and yeah, looking forward, excited to seeing the indoor season get underway.
Oh, there's one really quick question that just squeaked in regarding the pilot for the lining and scoring. Just clarification, if you can use different players, between first and second sets, and that's fine.
Yeah, that's true.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good night.